Okay, it's recording.
There's just not enough time.
Yeah. Oh, Eric's on. Okay. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
Good, good.
Awesome. So it's just a few of us today, but we're ready to get started. I believe it's recording, so we're just gonna have to post this again, and then everyone's just gonna watch the video.
Perfect, perfect. Sounds good. Well, good to see everyone. Happy Monday. Happy, God, almost Easter. I was realizing, kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So this is kind of an exciting kind of week in some ways. We'll sort of talk a little bit about sort of like what's ahead, right? I think, next week, I think Brian's going to join you guys and talk even about publishing and stuff like that. But today we'll talk a little bit about kind of like what's ahead for the rest of the sort of first draft manuscript process. So it's, people oftentimes at this point are like, oh my gosh, like, I've been at this forever. We've only really been at it for like a little more than 2 months, to be honest. And so, like we still have almost three months more of like time to work on your first draft. So there's no reason to worry. Plenty of time. And in some ways, a lot of what we've been learning is now how to like apply all these things to sort of succeed. So let me take you through a few slides. We'll talk about it, and I'm happy to answer questions along the way. But I always like to remember the big thing, right? When we talk about this, starting this goal, the goal here is for everyone to have a book in their hands come November, right? So that's the big goal here. Even if you get kind of like in the weeds of things of like, oh gosh, like book in your hand is pretty freaking awesome. I had 7 authors publish on Saturday, and it's one of the coolest things. There was parents crying, so it's awesome. So remember, we're on the track towards this one. Don't like get overwhelmed or those sorts of things. And I know like, the most common thing that I hear from people is like, am I behind? And no, you're not behind. Right? Like, don't worry about that one. This whole process is designed to be unique. And I know people feel behind, right? There's like, I feel like I'm behind. Are you sure that I'm not behind? I've done this like with 200 authors. I'm positive you're not behind. There's plenty of time. We have the system in place here. The most important thing to know is that like the first really like month of writing or month and a half of writing is really about learning styles. And so the important thing to know is that like the targets and the goals are really designed to help you understand how is your style. Because what hopefully some of you have learned is that like some of your style is this kind of like weekly style. But not everyone, only about 30% of people have this sort of weekly or habit style where every week they're chipping away, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 words. And so if that's your style, great. That's going to be the style that you're going to use to keep writing. And so that's awesome. Like if that's your style, now you know that one. Again, about 30% of people. However, other people, my actual style is what's called episodic or sporadic, where if like 1 week I'm not inspired, I won't write anything. But if the next week, like Thursday night rolls around and I'm inspired, I'll like write 5,000 words and stay up till 4 a.m. to do it. So like that's my style. It's another style. So that may be your style, that you're more what's the episodic or sporadic writer. Or you may fall into our third bucket, which is to say, semester's been busy. I'm not going to write as much as I thought at all. And most of my writing is going to happen in the summertime. Awesome. That is another style. And like, so all of these are just different things. And the most important thing to know in all of this one is now you know, right? You spent 5 weeks or so with the writing stuff. You're either in this sort of weekly habit writing, the sporadic one, or you're like, listen, I haven't gotten as much progress. I'm going to have to do most of my writing in the summer. All of those are good. The important thing to know is now you know, right? Now you have your sort of writing style and you can apply it as you go. You're going to talk to your editor about your style and how you're going to use this for the next, sort of 12 weeks or so, how to get through there. Because the core thing to know is now you know your style and you match it up with our deadlines or kind of milestones ahead. Now you have a plan. And that's the important thing to know is that there's very many successful authors who fall in all camps. Some of them are weekly writers. Some of them are sporadic. And some of them are like literally, it's called like, sort of this at the end deadline writers. And so that's great. Like whatever you figured out, awesome. So here's kind of the core deadlines to think about of what's coming ahead. So the first big milestone for us is the May 26th milestone. So this is the milestone, again, after finals, but this is basically what we call the story content milestone. So you remember kind of what Nicolette talked about. We're basically spending about 10 to 12 weeks just writing kind of raw content. It's not structured, sort of in these raw stories or scenes or poems if you're doing poetry. But the idea is you're just writing content to kind of get a bunch of content. We're going to use that to kind of structure the book and the chapters and those sorts of things. So this is kind of what you're doing. That's the first mile marker. And the other cool thing about it is there's sort of this kind of pre-approval process here where your editor can actually recommend you to the publisher saying, hey, this book is on track to be publishable. So that means that you can start some of the publishing things, you can start cover design, all that sort of stuff. So this is sort of based on two things: word count and quality of the writing thus far. So for example, if you've written 20,000 words and it's okay, it's not great yet, but it's okay, your editor can recommend you. So that's one approach. Or maybe you've written a little less, like 15,000 words, but it's strong, it's very well structured. In that case, the editor will recommend you as well. Again, about 60 to 70% of people wind up getting the pre-approval milestone. It's not good or bad, it just is. It's a good place. You then at that point know that this is on pace to be published. And so this is based on May 26th. So the word count is kind of calculated on that date. So that's the target date for you to create this one. About 60 to 65% of people hit that one. The second milestone that we have is July 7th. Now this is sort of the biggie. This is where all of us are going to create a first draft manuscript. And so at this point, you're basically going to ruin my July. And I'm just kidding, but that's when I'm going to start reading your manuscript. Remember, like, the only person who's going to read your first draft is me. That's going to be the one big one. So I'm going to be giving you a lot of feedback on how to make this thing better. So the core thing about a first draft manuscript is that you're going to basically make this look like a book manuscript, 25,000 words or more. It'll be structured into chapters. It'll have an introduction. It will definitely not be complete, but directionally it'll be on track. And so we'll talk about a lot of those things. We haven't spent any time talking about manuscript structuring, but that'll come. We'll start talking about those things probably end of next week. Lynn will connect with all of you about grabbing some time with me to start looking at book positioning and all these things. So we'll start that stuff coming soon. So don't worry about it yet. For now, just keep creating content. But again, kind of for authors that we'll have a second bite at the apple here. So this is where the manuscript approval comes in. So your editor will recommend you for publication on this one. So again, same things based on word count and quality of the writing. So 25,000 words and okay writing, they'll recommend you, or 20,000 words and strong writing, like, hey, this is on track. So again, this is based on the July 7th date, basically saying, hey, this thing is on track. So core thing to know. Use these milestones as tools. Sometimes people will be like, am I ahead? Am I behind? It doesn't really matter, right? Those are the big deadlines to sort of target for them. So put them down, know what they are. And then a big part of it is use them kind of with the help of your editor to figure out how your style is going to line up with those deadlines to get there. How are you going to use the time you have to do it? Remember, you're not behind. I know people sort of feel this way. The bigger thing is you just haven't written as much as you'd hope. You're ambitious. You're more ambitious, right? So who cares, right? We'll all get there, and that's the important thing to know. So I'll pause there. We'll talk about sort of some strategies a little bit to help you there. But any questions? Is that helpful? Does that give you some good, it's a ways from now, right? Like, you have time. So that's the thing I like everyone to know, is that, like, it's really like 3 months from now. So you have quite a bit of time, and don't worry. Even after you sort of finish your first draft, remember, you have 3 months of revision. So you have July, August, and September to keep revising. So it is a process here, but the goal here is to get you to that first draft manuscript so we can make things even better from there. Does that make sense? Any questions on that?
Awesome, perfect. Any questions about publishing?
Okay, I have a question. I was wondering, what if we don't want to publish?
Yeah, that's totally fine too. It's up to you. I would say it this way. You should, go through the process to create something and have something good at that point. We'll talk about different options that people have. I would say if you've gone through the work of doing it, it is something that I would recommend, like, letting it see the light of day. But if you don't want to, you certainly don't want to. Most people that get to this point, in some ways, like, will want to sort of share at least what they've done to see what that is. So we'll talk more about it. We do. Brian will come next week to talk about the publishing process, but it's kind of an interesting opportunity that I think a lot of people have, which is this sort of the pre-order campaign. And so I tell everyone, like, even if you're not sure, you should try and, like, get it out there and see what people think. And if a lot of friends, family, people around you get excited about your book, maybe it means something. Maybe it means that it should see the light of day, but there's no requirement that people publish. It's just, if people do the work to do it, I think everyone should have a shot to try and have their work published if they want to.
Yeah, it's not that I don't want to publish. I do want to publish it. It's just like, I plan on staying with this book for a while, and I feel like I kind of want more time to make sure that everything I say is very.
I would tell you that you should see, right? Like, honestly, there's another rule of this that's, I think, partially interesting. So once it gets longer than about, like, this process, so there's, like, part of the reason that it takes this period of time that we set this out is that once you hit a certain point of like 12 months, the chances of you ever finishing something goes down dramatically. So like mentally we just give up. And so there's a little bit of like you take more time to it. It takes a long time. What I tell people who, again, we can talk about this specifically for you, but for people that are like, hey, I want to make this better and whatever that is, oftentimes what I tell people is publish something and then know that you'll do a new edition. So about like 50% of the people that did their first book with me, 2 years later have done a new edition of their book. And so that's what a lot of people will do is they'll find something that's really good and then do a new edition of their book and make it better. So anyway, we can talk about all those things later, but I would just tell you there is a little bit of momentum here. And as soon as you stop it, I've never seen anyone pick it back up, unfortunately. So be thoughtful about like, today it's about having lots of iterations. Many of our authors are doing new editions or doing audiobooks because you just can, right? You just continue to have new editions you update over time. So,
thank you.
Cool. So let me take you to the second part of it. So once you sort of identify your sort of, your writing style and kind of these milestones, the next part of it is thinking about which advanced strategies may help you, right? And so the key thing behind advanced strategies is understanding that 25,000 words is a grind, right? How do you get that much content done? Because again, it's like most people have never done it. So one of the important things to know is that there's some unique things that successful authors do to keep cranking out new content over this period of time. And so I'm going to share with you kind of 5 common strategies I see that work really well for people to go through this one. And as you sort of talk to your editor and kind of map out your plan, find out what you think might work for you. So these are 5 different ones. You may like a couple of them, you may like none of them, but they're just tools that I think and strategies I've seen work really well. So I'll walk through them and then again, as you guys discussed tonight, see which ones might be helpful to you. So the first one is partner writing. Now this is a kind of an interesting way to use accountability through having a partner or partners to kind of work on this one. Oftentimes it's another author and the two of you will pair up or you will work together. I've seen authors, I literally have a set of authors here in DC who are they're called the 5 a.m. authors. Every Thursday from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. they go on Zoom together and they just write for 3 hours. I'm not sure why. I would never get up that early in the morning, but that's their style. And so there you go, right? Like some people like to just do that. When they don't actually get together, they just have Zoom open and they sometimes they'll have piano music playing together, whatever it is. So that's an interesting style that you could do that kind of way. I've had another authors, 2 authors, Hunter and Peter, who basically needed some kind of competitive juices. They're a little bit competitive. So they set this little bet up. They kind of partnered up. And then what they were doing is that every single week they would have the loser have to buy a beverage of choice for the winner. And so over the course of the semester, this became a pretty fun thing. They basically, short version, they got drunk at the end. So whatever you can do to kind of keep each other accountable, that can work really well. Find someone in the group, or if you want someone outside of it, let Lynn know, and Lynn can help you find someone in another school or with another genre, whatever it is to help you on that front. So partner writing works really, really well in that way to keep it kind of like a workout partner. Second one is the travel hack. And actually, this is something that I did this weekend that was really powerful. I hear from a lot of authors who say things like, oh, God, I had this plane flight and I wrote a ton of words. Or, oh, I had this bus ride or train ride or whatever it is. And so what you learn is that for some people, having a long chunk of time, a dedicated chunk of time without distraction out of the day-to-day is really helpful for writing. So, for example, can you wind up making this happen? So there's a woman named Lauren. She was in Boston. She was sort of struggling to kind of really get enough words down. And so I basically on a Saturday told her, go to the bus station and I want you to tell the person you want to get the cheapest ticket that takes you somewhere and back in under 14 hours. And so she found a $17 ticket, spent 12 hours kind of on a bus and back, and she wrote 8,000 words in the course of that time. And so can you do something like that? Can you find a way to kind of help you sort of make progress in that way? And so the travel hack works really well. I went up to New York this weekend for a short little event, had 4 hours there, for 5 hours there, 5 hours back. And in the morning session, I wrote 3,500 words just by using that time. So that can really work well for people, the travel hack one. Third one we talked about before is scribe writing. Can you speak write your content? The reason I think this can work really well is that, again, in just 1 hour of speaking content, being conversational about it, it literally translates into 4,000 to 6,000 words. So you think about it, right? 25,000 word first draft. That's really 5 hours of you sort of speaking. And so Otter.ai is really good. People are oftentimes hesitant about this one, saying, oh, it can't work. I don't think it's going to work for me. I had a guy named Tyler who just tried it. He was very skeptical even after the fact he recorded it, but then he went through and edited it, and he's like, wow, this is actually a lot better than I thought. So this can work really well as a tool. Scribe writing kind of can create a lot of content. Remember, even in this case, if you spend 5 hours, you can write 25,000 words just by dedicating kind of a weekend to speak writing content. The fourth one is Uber accountability. This can work really well if you find someone that you look up to, you admire, kind of someone a little more senior. So a professor you have, a high school teacher always works really well, a family friend, a former boss. Ask them if they'd be willing to do a 10 to 15 minute book check-in every week for the next 10 weeks. It works really well. In particular, what will happen is if you schedule these on Monday, if on Sunday night you haven't written anything, you'll probably stay up really late to write something just so you get something across the line. So can Uber accountability work? This one can work really well. And the last one is story inventory strategy. So let's just say you're like, hey, listen, I'm not going to write as much as I wanted to. I'm going to save it till after finals. Great. Like you can certainly do something there that you can basically say, I'm not going to write stories, but instead I'm going to write story inventories. And story inventories are, where you outline who is the hero, some background on them, and sort of lay out kind of what is the lesson, the 3Ds, kind of the quotes, the dialogue, the discussion, those things, and then make progress that way. So that can work really well. So those are kind of the 5 strategies. Partner writing, finding someone to kind of be your workout partner, so to speak. Travel hack, find a way to dedicate a chunk of time, get off campus, get out of the normal day-to-day. Scribe writing, speak writing these content. Uber accountability, and kind of lastly, just using the story inventory. Remember, these are the deadlines, right? May 26th and July 7th. All of these will just be kind of good ways for you to map your plan out. And this week, I think you guys should spend some time chatting with each other. What's your approach? What's your plan? And then get some time with your editor to sort of talk about your strategy to get there. And know this one, right? I've worked with a lot of authors. All of them can actually do this one. You guys can, even if you sort of feel behind. Deadlines will help get you there, and you'll do something great. So, questions, hopefuls? I give you guys something to work on?
Yes, that was really, really helpful. Like a really insightful way to look at actually getting writing done. Really like the Zoom session idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of us sometimes we booked meetings this quarter for 6 to 8, but
Mhm.
have to leave at 7 for other commitments. So it's hard to do like post writing, like during the session. But I think if we can find a time slot, even on the weekends, or we can also do post meeting for those who can stay. But we can find a time slot to just like, you don't have to come, but it's there.
Yeah, exactly. Just having an hour blocked off can be really good. Like it's a little bit like just knowing someone else is going to be in there, like the gym sort of thing. It really does work. And again, like I said, remember the other thing to do is to lower your expectations. You're really trying to get this first draft just for me. Like I'm the primary reader of this thing, and then you've still got 3 months to make it great from there. So we got a lot of time ahead of us ourselves. So just get words down, even if they're crappy words. We'll make them into something great.
Awesome. Any questions? Good. You guys are able to stay right now?
Yeah, I want to write.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. Thank you so
Cool.
much. We're gonna be writing.
Bye guys. See you guys next
Talk to
week.
you soon. Bye-bye. Okay, for everyone who tuned in via YouTube, pretty much what you have to be doing is figure out your writing schedule. We're going to try to post PowerPoint slides writing sessions during the meeting. If you have to leave at 7, no problem. We're also going to schedule an hour time block throughout the week where we're going to have a Zoom meeting open, and you can just hop on, and we're just all going to be writing. So it's like a motivational way to keep you accountable. And check out the post-meeting doc as well. That one has a lot of information. Deadlines, we said May 27th and July 7th, or 26th and July 7th. Don't be intimidated, all that stuff. Message me if you have any questions, message Eric. Keep in touch with your developmental editor, and see you guys next week.